film fanatics.
Crazy! It's crazy.
They're nuts about that.
Now, the Houston Film Fanatics.
This is Ray Marie with the Houston Film Fanatics, and we are talking with director, screenwriter, producer James Wan about his latest film, Lights Out.
Hey, Raylene and Marie.
How's it going, James?
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Good, very good.
We are going to jump right in here. Thank you so much for talking with us today. We have James Wan, director, screenwriter, producer. We are talking about your latest project, the film Lights Out, which you produced. Now, obviously, this was a short film that was on YouTube with the same title, Lights Out. How did you get involved with the project in bringing it a full-length film?
Well, like pretty much everyone, I saw the short that went viral, and when I saw it, I was really impressed by it. It was a very simple concept that I thought was very well executed and very effectively made, considering the fact that this guy, David F. Sandberg, just made it like in his own apartment back in Sweden, and he just shot it inside his apartment with his wife, and that was it. But even within that short, you could see why it went viral, and you could see why everyone were kind of blown away by it, and so. It was then brought to my attention that that it could potentially be turned into a feature. And at first, I was, a tiny bit skeptical, wondering how we can turn a whole short into a feature. But the more I thought about it, and after meeting the director, David himself, I started to believe that this was a short that we could actually expand into a feature film and do something really fun and scary with it.
Now, okay, how was your relationship between you and director David Sandberg? I mean, I know this was his first featured film, so was he nervous at all working with you?
I think he was just nervous in general about being on an actual film set, on an actual production, because up until then he had just made pretty much everything himself, and he's done everything. He's shot it himself, he's edited it himself, he's directed it himself, and so for the first time having an actual crew, an actual Hollywood crew at his disposal, I think that was quite the eye opener for him. And I think the most important thing I did for him really was to explain to him that he doesn't have to take on all the duties himself, and as a director he should take the advantage of the fact that he should just delegate all his creative thoughts and basically direct, and they are people that would do it for him, and so he wouldn't have to do it all himself. I think that was the biggest learning curve for David, but once he understood that, I think he really enjoyed the process.
Aside from producing Lights Out, you have produced as well as directed quite a few films. Now, what would you say you prefer most, directing or producing?
I mean, directing is my day job, but producing for me is a lot easier. Directing is very hard. It takes up so much more of my time. It's all consuming. Whereas producing, you're really there to make sure things are good and make sure it's running in the right direction. Make sure creatively, it's in line with what the director is doing. But at the end of the day, being a director myself, I try not to get in the way of my directors, and so I really like to give my directors the freedom for them to go and make the movie that they want to make.
Well, you definitely made a really fun film this time. I know we got to see it earlier this week, and we had a blast watching it.
Oh, cool! Thank you.
Now you have created, honestly, you've had a hand in creating some of the creepiest horror films over even the last decade. If I asked anybody right now, what is your favorite horror film over the last 10 years? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to say a project that you've probably had a hand in some fashion. So when you're making newer films, do you feel like extra pressure on you to try to really, hit it out of the park every time?
No, I mean, I don't set out to try and create the next horror franchise. I've been very fortunate that a lot of the movies I've made, from Saw to Insidious to Conjuring, have been, extremely well received, and I'm very lucky and I feel very fortunate for that. But I don't think you can set out, with that mentality. I think the key is to set out there, just go out and try and tell the best story you can, and make the best movie you can, and hopefully, people out there will feel the same way that you do, you know. But now, having said that, I did feel a lot more pressure than I generally would have with Conjuring 2, just because, you know, the Conjuring 1 was so beloved, is so beloved, and you know, just people across all age and all gender really, you know, took to that film, and so there was definitely a little bit of trepidation coming into the second one.
So, is Lights Out in the works of making a spinoff, perhaps? Getting the backstory of Diana's life, maybe?
Well, I think...
You can tell us.
I'm not going to go that far just yet. I'm going to take it one step at a time before we start talking about spin-offs. Yeah.
Well, The Conjuring 2, I mean, it did pretty well at the box office, and of course, many are hopeful for Part 3, but you're currently set to start working on Aquaman, which we're all really, really excited about.
Yes.
If there is going to be a Conjuring 3, is that going to get put on hold, or is there possibly going to be maybe a new director standing in? How would you like that to move forward if it happens?
You know, Conjuring 2 definitely was a challenge for me, and as I just explained, you know, throughout the making of Conjuring 2, the whole time I was saying to myself, how in the world am I going to top the first one?
Right.
And you know, and we all worked really hard, and you know, I'm very happy that Conjuring 2 is you know, well received as well, and you know, and it took a lot to get it to that point. So I honestly do not know if I can do it 3 times, to be honest. But
we
you know,
we believe in you for sure.
Yes, we do.
Well, you know, I guess the main thing for me right now is, yes, my schedule is a bit busy at this point. It's a bit full, so we'll see what happens. But having said that, whether I direct it or not, the Conjuring universe is something that is very dear to my heart, and I definitely will have a hand in shepherding where things go.
Well, I know that we're all definitely looking forward to that. We're also very excited about your upcoming stuff. Now, I have to ask, having such a heavy horror movie background, is that going to impact maybe your approach to, like, your Aquaman film? Are we going to be seeing possibly maybe a little darker film than we would have seen otherwise?
Well, I mean, it's kind of that was the reason I actually kind of went off and did Fast and Furious 7, you know, to show people that I'm not just a dark horror filmmaker. That, you know, that tone is something that you know, that I'm very aware of, and I'm very you know, that I love all kinds of sensibility. You know, I like to make movies that are just, you know, that doesn't have to be in your face scary. Part of the reason why I'm you know, I'm directing the pilot for MacGyver, just to again show that I can do other things. And I really think with Aquaman, it really is, you know, whatever is right for the movie itself. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean that Aquaman will not have scary elements, you know, because you know, in the comic book world, Aquaman actually deals with a lot of really sort of fantastical creatures of the deep, and that element really excites me a lot.
Oh, it definitely gets us all very excited for sure.
So, you know, besides Aquaman, we read that you are in the works of making Insidious 4, Annabelle 2, and a spinoff of The Conjuring 2 called The Nun, which comes out in 2017. Now, out of all these films, The Nun freaks me out because it scared the hell out of me in The Conjuring 2. I mean, what can you tell us about this film? I mean, we're excited for this.
You know, the Nun spin-off of Conjuring 2 is one that I'm really excited about myself. I think there's a reason why a lot of people, you know, really liked her so much, you know, despite the fact that she's really terrifying.
Yes.
And I think whatever we do, I really want you know, these spin-offs to connect with the other sort of Conjuring movies or spin-offs. And I really think it's important to sort of connect the Conjuring universe together. And I definitely do have plans to create a bigger world and they're all sort of interlinked. You know, that is something that excites me a lot. That's why I definitely want to be around to make sure these linkage are the right ones.
Yeah, we're definitely excited for this. But now, do you ever get nightmares when working on your films? That's just something I've always wanted to ask you.
Do I get nightmares from
Yes.
my own movies?
Yes.
I don't get nightmares from making them, but I definitely do creep myself out sometimes when I'm thinking of scary ideas. One of my processes, if I'm trying to think of a creepy scene, I literally switch off all the lights in my house in the middle of the night, and I walk around and I cook up a scenario. I'm thinking of this scene in my head, and if I get chills from this scene, then I know something is effective, and I know it's working well, and that's kind of like my yardstick.
Well, it's very accurate.
That's my writing process.
Well, you know what? It's working for you. You've got a lot of great stuff happening right now with The Conjuring 2 still being in theaters, Lights Out hitting theaters this weekend. And, we hope to see so much more from you in the future. Thank you so much for talking to us today, James. We really, really appreciate it.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for having me on. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.